in this video, I'm going to show you an exercise which gets your shoulder blades sliding around your rib cage, which helps to improve the function of the muscles which anchor it down onto the rib cage to improve the coordination, perhaps to switch off a bit of extra activity in the upper trapezius up here, get a bit more activity in the lower trapezius. So in order to do this exercise, you're going to need a wall. You stand in front of the wall, a little like 1.5 to 2 feet away from the wall, an arm's length away from the wall, so that you can take your hands out at shoulder height and press your hands down onto the wall and ever so slightly lean into your hands. Okay. So from here, we're going to imagine that keeping soft elbows, we're going to imagine that the breastbone, the sternum, is sinking down towards the wall. And as that happens, the shoulder blades draw backwards. And then we'll work the opposite direction, pressing the wall away from us. The breastbone, sternum sinks in to the back, almost moving back in between the shoulder blades. And the shoulder blades now slide around the back. So we sink forwards and backwards. And we can start to work into this lovely coordination of the shoulder blades on the back. Just noticing, does it feel different on either side? And you're not heavily leaning into the wall, you're just getting a bit of feedback from it. Okay. Try and make sure this movement stays with the shoulder blades rather than moving into this upper back extension and upper back flexion. You can bring a bit of that in, but it should be coming forwards and backwards rather than opening and closing. And it should also be staying up here rather than coming into the lower back. So if you notice that your lower back feels it a bit, then probably what's happening is you're doing this and this, tilting backwards and tilting forwards. So to counteract that, stop it from happening, draw your tail down. Imagine you have a tail and let it kind of move down and almost tuck in between your legs and draw up at the front of the pelvis. So to keep the lower back nice and long, try and maintain that. As you gently just slightly lean into the wall, let the rib cage move forwards, the rib cage moves backwards. Shoulder blades slide backwards, shoulder blades slide forwards. So you can do this against the wall. And once you have the hang of it, you can go into doing it with a bit of weight bearing on hands and knees. So perhaps bringing hands underneath the shoulders, knees under the hips. Same thing here. Keep the lower back nice and long, so you can almost kind of tuck your tail in between your legs as you do this. Draw up at the front of the pelvis, draw slightly in through the tummy, and then let the shoulder blades move backwards. Imagining the tips of the shoulder blades, as in the bottom of them, are kind of moving down the back as they draw together, sliding into your back pocket, sliding into the opposite back pockets of your trousers. And then press the ground away from you to dome your upper back up in between the shoulder blades as the shoulder blades slide around the rib cage. So as this movement, again, we can do it with a bit more weight through the arms as we're on hands and knees. And if that's feeling okay, then you can take perhaps one leg out, same thing. And then maybe taking both legs all the way out into a full plank and seeing if you can still maintain that position of the pelvis. Tail draw down, front of the pelvis draws up. As the shoulder blades drop backwards, and then press the ground away from you to let the shoulder blades slide forwards. So it gets progressively more effortful loading. It might be that doing it against the wall, you can't quite get the movement. So it may be that coming to load yourself up a little bit more onto hands and knees, if you can't figure it out at the wall, might be the place that you need to start. So go with what feels where you can kind of access the movement. And this, rather than being solely about strengthening, is about engagement and of muscles and cueing a kind of a certain pattern of muscle engagement. And so you're not just purely strengthening the muscles, you're trying to change the activation so that you have more control and more of a sense, a bodily sense of awareness of what's happening with your shoulders, and that they aren't just, your shoulders aren't just here, it's the whole shoulder girdle fills kind of this whole back and side and kind of above and behind the rib cage, and that it incorporates the shoulder blade and your clavicle here. So whenever your shoulders are moving backwards or forwards, there's movement going on at this bone here, this bone here, this joint here, this joint here, rather than it just being your shoulder out here. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. It's the kind of thing that you could probably do a few times a day, and it would just be a really good way of freeing up your upper trapezius muscles. So if you spend a lot of time sitting and typing, getting up every couple of hours, getting up more often than every couple of hours, but this being something that you bring in as a little movement snack every time you get up to go make a cup of tea, leaning against a wall, doing 5 or 6 repetitions of this is a really nice way of getting some of those extra muscles to just switch on a bit more throughout your working day. Good luck.